Greetings and welcome back to the Casual Wargamer. You join me on a chilly evening, despite the fact it's been nice and sunny all day. Hot cup of cocoa. And today we're going to look at the Chaos Space Marine Codex. A little bit late doing this. I'm well behind on looking through the various armies and their books, and I hope to catch up soon. Normally, I would go through a lot more detail than I am going to do in this video. I kind of think it's a bit boring, actually, if I sit there and read this stuff and you just, listen to me waffle on. So I'm just going to give my thoughts on it in more condensed format. If you'd rather I went back to the old way, just let me know in the comments below. So, Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Marines, as we abbreviate it to. I've said this before in previous videos, but for the sake of the little history at the beginning of these, Chaos Space Marines did not exist in Rogue Trader originally. Chaos was not a thing written into the core rulebook, did not appear until about a year later with the first of two Realm of Chaos books. The first, Slaves to Darkness, which gave us Khorne, Slaanesh, Black Legion, and introduced the concept of the Horus Heresy. And it was followed by Lost and the Damned, which was nowhere near as good a book. Obviously, different artists, different writers. But that one gave us Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Grey Knights. As the game has gone on, Chaos has become a big thing. Chaos has always been a big thing in Games Workshop. You can easily see that they were influenced by the Elric of Melniboné stories by Michael Moorcock, which is all about chaos, which is all about demons being bound into weapons and things, and you can see where they've got it all from. Chaos Marines. Okay, Chaos Marines are an army I quite like to play against, even though I find them quite tough. They have always been. I know I've got into an argument recently online about this. Chaos Space Marines have always been better than generic Space Marines. It's one of my little bugbears. And this person I was arguing with really would not accept it. Normal Space Marines are far more powerful than we are, he's saying. And I'm like, you don't remember what it used to be like. You're probably a new person coming into the hobby the last few years where things have been a bit more balanced. But going back at least to 4th edition, which is when competitive play really took off, and I used to experience Chaos Marines a lot more often, they were far better. Older editions of the rules had this mechanic where if you charged, you got an extra attack, and if you had a pistol and some form of close combat weapon, you got an additional attack. This was a default for Chaos Marines. They always had a close combat weapon, they always had a pistol. Generic Marines, pistol. It's my argument that all Space Marines should have chainsaws to compensate. So Chaos Marines would simply charge into you and they would have umpteen attacks and just smash you to little pieces. And generally, as things have gone on, I find that they're just as squishy as the rest of us when it comes to it, but they have a much better damage output than, say, regular Marines, which is always going to be what they are compared to. And I don't think that's much different now. The current Chaos Space Marine Codex is a little bit odd. The detachments are a bit strange in some places. But they're still, I think, as an army, slightly better than regular Marines by their abilities. And we shall come to this. Got to have a bit of hot chocolate if you're going to talk about chaos. So you have a special army rule. And I'm going to get grief now from all the CSM players out there. Hi, Mr. Phil. But yeah, you're all going to give me grief now. And I get it. I really get it. But tell me how we fix this before you start jumping on me. So the army rule for Chaos Marines is Dark Pacts. So it reads as follows. If your army faction is Heretic Astartes, Each time a unit with this ability, which is basically everything that isn't damned, so not cultists and the like, is selected to fight or shoot, it can make a Dark Pact. If it does, it must first make a leadership test before any effects of the Dark Pact are resolved. If the test is failed, the unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. If not, you choose one of the following abilities for that unit's weapons to gain until the end of the phase. Lethal hits, sustained hits 1. Okay, this is my issue. That would be fine if it was a 1 unit ability. And these are, admittedly, lethal hits are on 6s to hit, sustained hits, 6s to hit. It's relying on 6s. But when every single unit in your army, from the lowliest legionnaire to the mightiest land raider, can do this, it gets silly. The amount of potential lethal hits, the amount of potential sustained hits when you pick it right is devastating. It really is. Now, I find it particularly strong. I think it needs a tone in some way, but the only way I can see to do it would be to say you nominate what you're going for first, lethal hits or sustained hits. You then make the leadership test. If it works, fine. If it fails, you don't get the ability, but you take the D3 mortal wounds. The problem is, then everyone would go, well, I'm not doing it. Right now, I can take the hit, because bear in mind, you can use this in the shooty phase and the assault phase. The same unit can do it. I think it's too strong. But if you do what I say, no one would probably do it. The only other option I can see is you restrict it to infantry so that your demon engines cannot benefit from it. Your tanks can't benefit from it. Because the amount of times I've had this used on demon engines and they've just wiped whole squads off the table is just crazy. And Chaos Marine players are biting at their for me saying this because they think it's perfectly fine, which it may well be. I think it's a little too strong. But hey ho. That little rant aside, the other option you've got here is called Cult of the Dark Gods, which basically allows you to take the basic battle line troops from World Eaters, Thousand Sons, Death Guard, and Emperor's Children. So you can have Berserkers, Rubric Marines, Plague Marines, and Noise Marines. But only so many points worth, depending on the size of the game you're playing. That's good. You shouldn't miss out on that. But I do think it's kind of naughty because it kind of means you've got to buy the other book. If you are playing, say, Black Legion or something, and you want to include these, you've got to have the other book. So, list of detachment. We've got a long list of detachments. And I'll say I'm not going to go through everything. I'm just going to sort of like talk about it. Your basic one, however, Veterans of the Long War, is your default and arguably one of the best. However, again, and I know I'm looking at this from a Space Marine player perspective, so bear with me, please. I'm going to try and be as impartial as I can, but so you have a detachment rule for this one called Focus of Hatred, which basically reads, well, not basically, it does read, at the start of your command phase, select one unit from your opponent's army to be your Focus of Hatred until the start of the next command phase. Each time a Heretic Astartes model from your army, excluding Damned, makes an attack that targets your Focus of Hatred, you re-roll the hit roll. So, Mr. James Workshop, you've given Chaos Marines in this detachment Oath of Moment, pre-Grotmus change. So Marines aren't unique in that anymore. You've suddenly given them exactly the same ability. Okay. Enhancements. You've got an enhancement called Eager for Vengeance for 20 points. The bearer's unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge on a turn it fell back. So you're giving this army the potential to have, or one unit in this army, the potential to have the same sort of thing as a Gravis detachment, Gladius, detachment gives it. It does have the benefit of if you shoot the focus of hatred, you get to hit roll. You get +1 to the hit roll and +1 to the charge if you go back at them. So it's slightly different. But it's like you're copying what we've got. I think that's, don't be copying other people's stuff. You know, it's taking what generic Marines have and basically give it to you, but you're getting better stuff to go along with it. The other thing you've got here is also one that grants you extra CP, and most of these, or probably about half, I'd say, of these attachments, without double checking, have a enhancement that can give you an extra CP. This is another bugbear of mine because, again, generic Marines, and I know we're not supposed to be talking about generic Marines here, but generic Marines don't have any of this. Everybody else gets to generate CP but us. Why do I keep mentioning normal Space Marines during this? Because Chaos Space Marines and generic Space Marines are the opposing element. They are the core sort of armies of the game, as it were. And I think they should be much more balanced, but with their own thing. In your stratagems for this, there's a one called Contemptuous Disregard, which is Armor of Contempt. Again, you're nicking our stuff. Stop it. In general, though, your stratagems in this detachment are quite good. You've got one that basically lets you effectively shift your focus of hatred, which is nice. You've got one which lets your ranged attacks ignore cover and torrent weapons instantly become 6 attack rather than d6. You've got something that gives you fight first. You've got stuff to give you a movement when the opponent's unit moves. You've got a good mix of strats that work, that kind of work well together, which is something I can't say. How do I word it? Isn't something I can say is true of most of the detachments in this book. Your basic Veterans of the Long War, to me, is a very nice detachment. And I would probably say arguably one of the best and certainly more playable. But we shall see. Tell me what you think down below. Next up, you have Deceptors, which is your Alpha Legion equivalent. I've only played against this once, and I absolutely annihilated it. And that's me. So the basic rule for this is Masters of Misdirection. It basically says that in your declared battle formation, you can select a number of Legionnaire and Cultist mob units, 2, 3, and 4 of each, depending on the size of the game. And any character units attached to them are not epic heroes, and they have the Infiltrators rule. So you can start stuff way further up the table than you would normally do, and that's quite a few units getting up close, which is quite nasty. It also means, however, that you've got a lot of stuff that's potentially, depending on who gets the first turn, is potentially going to die through lots of firepower. But it also gives you the opportunity to get stuff onto objectives and slightly harder for your opponent to take you off of them, because you've got to get rid of everything on it. You've got some interesting enhancements. I like this one, Cursed Fang. The character model, the melee weapon's AP is improved by 1 and it gains precision. That's nice. You've got a weapon that purposefully targets out the enemy characters and tries to kill them. Nice. You've got a nice one called Falsehood, which basically goes, you in the beginning of the game, declare battle formation, you take a Chaos Lord, but not Terminator or Jump Pack. You put them in strategic reserve, and when you've got a unit that only has, where are we? If you do, in the reinforcement step of your movement phases, you can select one model in a friendly Legionnaire or chosen unit that has 2 or more models remaining and is on the battlefield, excluding attached units. You can destroy one of those models and you can pop your character in instead. So suddenly, at the end of your movement step, it was revealed that lone little Legionnaire at the back of the squad is actually your Chaos Lord. And he just looks like everybody else because it's, Alpha Legion. I like that. That's quite, a nice surprise effect. You've got another one, Shroud of Obfuscation, which gives the bearer stealth and lone op. That's nice. On the right one. And you've got a very odd one, Soul Link, which basically lets you pick 2 characters, and one of them gets the bearer's datasheet ability instead of their own for the phase, and it's a bit strange, but the enhancements are nice. I like that. I'm not so much a fan of the stratagems. You do have a couple of nice ones. You've got one that auto detonates an opponent's vehicle that is not Titanic. Or I'll say model, not necessarily vehicle, something of a deadly demise. You can automatically cause it to explode. That's nice. You've got quite an interesting one. So you charge units and you pick one after the fact, and it gets +1 to its charge up to +3 for every other unit that charged the same phase, allowing you to get that long bomb charge, hopefully. You've got stuff that lets you fall back and shoot. You've got something again that triggers when the opponent makes a move, 6 inches. You've got something that prevents anyone from coming in from reserves within 12 inches. The problem is, unlike, as I say at the beginning, this detachment lets you potentially infiltrate a load of stuff, but it's going to put itself in a line of fire, and it dies very, very quickly, which is what happened when my opponent played this. Although when they did this, they also took a load of traitor guard stuff for a bit of fun, and that actually survived longer. There's about 50-50 on the list, and they survived longer than the Chaos Marines did, for some strange reason, especially the Commissar with his Ogrin type bodyguard just couldn't get through them. But I kind of find that the stratagems for this detachment are I don't feel there's a synergy to them. I kind of feel that you've got something that lets you do this, but then this does this and this does this, where it doesn't feel like it's unified. So I've got to say, I'm a little disappointed on this one. I think it has flaws. I think it's nice, and if that's the sort of way, if you play Alpha Legion, you really want to play this, and go for it. But I don't think it's a great detachment at all. Renegade Raiders, which I would assume is just meant to be your Red Corsair type guys. Special rule, Raiders and Reavers, your ranged weapons have assault, and you get +1 AP if you're shooting something on an objective. And you're where are we? Each time a hearty makes an attack that targets unit within range of an objective marker, the AP increases by 1. So yes, make sure I get that right. I like that. That's nice. Enhancement wise, you've got another one that gives you CP. You've got another one which gives your character rerolls to hit and wound rolls if they're within 12 inches of the opponent's deployment zone. You've got one that lets the unit scout 6. Another one that you can reroll advanced rolls, and you can shoot in a turn which you fall back. Quite nice, to be honest. It feels like it's about going up the table, and that's what your stratagems give you as well. Again, this detachment gives you an equivalent to Armor Contempt. Sneaking our stuff, store it. You've got one that gives you precision when targeting a unit on an objective, so you can bump characters off. You've got one here that lets you, if you're not within engagement range of an enemy unit, you can make an all move up to 6 or 12 if you're mounted, and you can't jump in the transport if you've got out of one this turn, but it gives you a bit more maneuverability. You've got one that lets you auto advance 6. It's the stratagems for this one are about, we're going forwards and we're going to basically daka all the way, and we want to get within range of your deployment zone. Boom. We want to be pushing up the table. It's a very aggressive detachment. And for that alone, I really like it. I think you've got to have the right list for it. You've got to build around it, but very, very good. Dread Talons, or Talons, is your Night Lord one, and I love this one. It's just thematic and it does something that no other detachment to my mind does. So basically, your rule for this is called Terror Descends. It's an aura effect. In the battle shock step of your opponent's command phase, if an enemy unit that is below starting strength is within 12 inches of one or more of your Heretic Astartes units, that unit must make a battle shock test. Each time an enemy unit within 12 inches of one or more of your Heretic Astartes units takes a battle shock test, they subtract 1 from the result. And then they don't need to take any more battle shock tests. I love it because it's actually using the battle shock mechanic, and by imposing a penalty, it's actually giving you a potential to benefit from it, because although Space Marines normally pass on a 6, now 7, most things are 7, now 8. It's much harder for a non-Space Marine to pass this. And I just think the battle shock effect is something that doesn't get used enough in the game. It needs a slight overhaul for this sort of thing to be more effective across the board. So enhancement wise, you've got one that potentially gives you an CP, because CP generation for Chaos Marines is needed. You've got one that gives your non-Terminator Chaos Lord stealth, he and his unit. You've got one for jump pack Chaos Lords, they can jump out of combat and come back again. And you've got another which I really like, Will Breaker, for 10 points. These are quite cheap in this for what they do, I think. Where basically your melee weapons cause battle shock tests. Yes, in the fight phase, after the bear has made attacks, select one enemy unit hit by one of those attacks, and they must make a battle shock test. Again, you're in range, -1. Lovely. Nice and thematic, and using the mechanic. Stratagem-wise, again, I think what you've got here is very nice, and it actually does play into the strengths of the army. Yes, you have got... what was I going to say? You've got one that is kind of... my brain has stopped working. You've got one that's kind of the reverse of Armor of Contempt. That's what I meant. So you target a unit that is battle shocked and or below half strength. You increase your AP by 1. Not, you know what I mean. You've got one where if you have just destroyed a character unit, if any enemy units within 12 invisible, they must make battle shock tests. You've got another one to let you re-roll, hit roll, and wound rolls if a target is battle shocked to below half strength. You've got one to declare a charge which you fell back. It's all about battle shock tests, this one. And you've got one where if a unit falls back, you get to charge them. Very, very nice. I really like this detachment. Shame I only know one person who plays Night Lords, and he barely ever plays anymore. But I would absolutely love to face this one. I think it's really, really good. Fellhammer Siege Host, which is your Iron Warriors equivalent one. Detachment rule is Iron Fortitude. Each time ranged attack targets one of your units, excluding the damned. If the strength of that is greater than the toughness of the unit, that attack gets -1 to wound. That's really awkward. Sometimes it's really annoying, especially if opponents playing some quite tough infantry. Terminators or the like. It does make vehicles and demon engines more survivable, though, which is good. Your opponent's certainly going to play into, or rather, you are going to play into taking stuff like that for this. Enhancements are interesting. You've got one where for once per battle round, if you fail a save, you can change the damage to 0. You've got one which is quite interesting. Your weapons are anti-vehicle 4 and anti-fortification 4. Not like anybody really plays fortifications, though, but it's nice to actually see that getting some recognition. You've got one that gives you +1 to wound if you target someone on an objective. And tracers, basically, which you shoot a unit, and then after that, they don't get cover against anyone else shooting for that turn, for that phase. Nice. It's got some interesting strats as well. Again, you've got one that lets you re-roll hits and potentially wound rolls on a unit. You've got one which I quite like called Brutal Attrition. So it basically is at the end of the phase, each time a melee attack is allocated to your unit. After that attacking unit has finished making its attacks, you roll a d6 for each. For each attack. Get this right. For each attack, so to a maximum of d6, you're going to effectively roll 66. Each 4+ deals a mortal wound back. Sorry, it's not the most worded. That's why I flubbered my words there. It could be much better already. But they attack you, you potentially deal mortal wounds back. I think that's great. And at only 1 CP, it's well costed. An interesting one, point blank destruction until the end of your phase. Your ranged weapons, excluding blast weapons, have pistol. Really nice. It's got that on the right unit. Your opponent's charged your obliterators or your havocs with some nasty weapons. You can shoot them as pistols. Nice. You've got one that gives you a 5-up feel no pain for a unit, and one that reduces your opponent's charge roll by 2. I like this. It's a nice detachment. It's got some strength to it. It's quite tough, and it's got some nice stratagems. Another good one. Packbound Zealot is your word bearers, and this is I don't know. I've yet to face this one, so what I'm looking at here is more my thoughts rather than actual play experience. But it has an interesting mechanic. So basically, I shall read this simply because it's easier. When mustering your army, when you select a heretic Astartes unit to include in your army, as long as it's not an epic hero and doesn't already have a Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh, or Chaos Undivided keyword, you have to give it one of those. Okay, and each time a unit from one of these keywords gains a weapon ability as a result of a Dark Pact, and you do not fail the leadership test, depending on which it is, lethal hits is Khorne, Tzeentch. You critical hit on 5s with melee and ranged. Sustained hits do the same for Nurgle and Slaanesh in return, and Chaos Undivided for both of them just get to reroll hit rolls of 1. So 5-up critical hits is really nasty, I think. I was complaining about 6s earlier. 5s, suddenly a whole new game. That could be right nasty with the right units. Enhancement wise, you've got one that basically, if you do a really good Dark Pact and you do not fail it and you roll 8 or more, you gain a CP. You've got another one that gives you feel no pain and benefits for not failing your Dark Pact tests. It's all about Dark Pacts, this one, really giving you benefits for it. Stratagem-wise, I did read through these earlier. It's a little bit odd. They are nice, but some of them are keyed to the Chaos God keyword. So they do. You do get a benefit for using it, but you get a better, improved edition if you're a Khorne unit or a Slaanesh unit or what have you. So it kind of, to me, pushes part of it into the list building, because you know you're going to want to do this, so you make sure these units have this keyword, which isn't a bad thing. Anything that kind of affects the list building and makes it more interesting is a good thumbs up. So I like it. It certainly plays into itself. It certainly plays into the Dark Pact mechanic. But again, considering I think it's already quite strong and needs a tone down, we'll have to see if I ever get to play that particular detachment. You've then got Chaos Cult, which is basically allowing you to just play your damned units, your cultists, your traitor guardsman squads, in fact, become battle line for this. They have a detachment rule called Desperate Devotion. Each time a damned unit from your army with the Dark Pact ability is selected to make a normal or advanced move, or they declare a charge, excluding units coming from reserve, it can make a Desperate Pact instead. If it does, until the end of the phase, they get +2 to their move and +2 to charge rolls. The Desperate Pact is basically the same thing, but you take D3 mortal wounds before where are we? Each time a Desperate Pact, it must make a leadership test. The test is failed, you suffer D3 mortal wounds before the effects of the Desperate Pact are resolved. Is there much of a difference? It basically, I don't know. Does it make a difference? They don't get the other effect, but they do get an increased movement. See what I mean? It's a bit odd. And enhancement wise are a bit odd. You've got one that lets you return D3 models in your command phase, which is nice. You've got one that lets you re-roll advanced and charge rolls. Increases if you target your units below starting strength, you increase the strength of your melee weapons, an extra attack if they're below half strength. You've got one where the unit gets to scout 6. Nice. Stratagem wise, I think it's a bit lacking. I think this is a detachment that you play for the funsies. I don't think it's. I was going to say, it's not competitive. You would play this for a bit of fun, maybe for a crusade game or something like that. And its stratagems are a bit odd. Some of them revolve around the Desperate Pact mechanic. I don't know. That's about it. You've got something that allows you to declare a charge when you advance. It's almost like it wants the army, your cultists, to just run up the table and get slaughtered on the way. I don't really get it. It just doesn't seem playable, viable. Personally, I am disappointed that Chaos Traitor Guard was not a detachment in the Astra Militarum Codex, because that's where I would have put it, not in CSM. Because you want to play, all right, this is playing cultists, but you take your Traitor Guard. You've got no Lehman Russes, you've got no Baneblades, you've got no anything like that. You are literally cultists, Traitor Guard with Predators, Land Raiders, and the like. You're still having to rely on CSM backup, even though your infantry and everything else is basic cultists. Not a fan. And then lastly, you have the Soulforged War Pack, which is Vashtor the Archophane's lot. And this is really nice. I have faced this and it was dirty. So the rules for this one is Depth to the Soulforge. So each time a heretic starts his demon vehicle, so this is based all around your demon engines, unit from your army makes a Dark Pact, can invoke its contract. If it does, you subtract 1 from the resulting leadership test until the end of the phase. Each time a model in the unit makes a ranged attack, it gets +1 to the wound roll and has +2 attacks of melee weapons. Yeah, nasty. So your demon engines are really nasty in this detachment. So your shooty ones are all getting +1 to wound, and your combatty ones are getting an extra 2 attacks, I should say. Enhancement wise, you've got one that you select one of your vehicles and has Feeling of Pain 6+ to start the next command phase. You've got a Warpsmith one that adds 4 to his movement characteristic, presumably so the Warpsmith, your Iron Father type. Iron Father? No, that's Iron Hands, isn't it? Slap me if I'm wrong. I think I am wrong. It's late. What can I tell you? Basically allows them to keep up so they can keep doing their healing. You've got one that basically, where attempting addendum. Each time a heretic starts his demon vehicle, Miari invokes its contract within 3 inches of the bearer. If it suffers 1 or more mortal wounds, add 1 to the number of mortal wounds it suffers. but until the end of the phase, each time modelling that unit makes an attack, you re-roll the hit roll. It's 25 points. I think it's a little expensive for something that potentially adds even more wounds, but there you go. And Soul Harvester. So basically, while the bear is on the battlefield, each time an enemy unit within 12 of the bear is destroyed, you roll a dice on a 5+, you get a command point. There's something about these detachments, a load of them, like half of them, have ways of gaining CP. Do Chaos Marines really need more ways to gain CP? So when I faced against this, it was with Vashtor the Archifane. And this was nasty. It was literally like the Fellhammer one. It was literally taking units. I was pulling units off the table. It's nasty. And what I like about this is all of the detachments, I think it's all of them, yes, are all based around, they all work on your demon vehicles, they all work on Heretic Astartes vehicles, and half of them are also playable on Vashtor himself. So you can improve the AP on your demon vehicles by 1. You can, you've got one, if the enemy moves away, you can move 6 to get as close as possible to that enemy. You can move through terrain features. It really works. Like I said earlier, some of these detachments feel like they don't quite go together. The stratagems don't gel with the overall feel of the army. This one really does. It's great. So that is that. So I think the detachments are a little hit and miss, probably about 50-50. But yes, I think you haven't got a bad codex. I would just like to see a refocus of Dark Pacts. So it's not quite as good as it is. But again, you're a Chaos Marine player. Tell me why it shouldn't be changed, or if you agree with me, let me know, because I would like to know that I'm vindicated on my opinion on this one. Okay, so last little thing, we look at what you've got in the codex. So characters, you've got a shed load of characters in this. Lots of basic, Chaos Lord, Terminator Lord, Jump Lord, Dark Apostles, Master Execution, Master Possession, Sorcerers, Terminator Sorcerers, Warpsmiths, blah, blah, blah. You've also got characters. Vashtor the Archifane, always nice. You've got Cypher, you've got Fabius Bile, Huron Blackheart. But now we're going to get to something that absolutely gristles my bones. I don't know. That really bugs me. And it's more of I don't want to say it's an OCD thing, but I don't have OCD before anyone thinks I'm being funny. But it twists my melon, man. Okay. Again, I'm going to go and compare to the basic Space Marine Codex, but only for the purposes of comparison. I'm not actually trying to compare the two books in this. In the Space Marine Codex, and you can say this to anything that has characters from specific factions within your codex. But I'm going to use Space Marines because Chaos Marines and Space Marines are opposites of one another. So, in the Space Marine Codex, you have Guilliman, and you've got Calgar, and you've got Ventress, all Ultramarines, and they have Ultramarines as a faction keyword. You've got Vulcan Hastan, Salamander's keyword. You've got keywords for Raven Guard, White Scar, they have them. Now, you have 2 Black Legion characters in this book. You've got Abaddon the Despoiler, and you've got Harken Worldclaimer. Do either of these have Black Legion as a keyword? No, they do not. And that irritates me, something chronic, because these are Black Legion characters. They should only be in a Black Legion force. Not that it makes any difference. I will state that right now. It makes no difference because they have Chaos Undivided, which is basically Black Legion. We all know that they gather everybody from different war bands. They all join together. It's all paint their armor black, go do naughty things. But it bugs me. It bugs me that they do not have Black Legion as a keyword. Admittedly, let's just take a look. Cypher has fallen, but nothing else in the codex has fallen. So, they're just Chaos Undivided. Huron Blackheart doesn't have a Red Corsairs keyword. He is just Chaos Undivided. And obviously, Fabulous Bill, even though he's technically Emperor's Children, I know he isn't, he's kind of left, he's his own thing, doesn't have anything. And I get it. The whole point is that now Abaddon is gathering different warbands to him, and maybe Black Legion isn't as specific as it once was. But it bothers me. It really bothers me that they haven't given him and Harken the Legion keyword. Doing my Sheldon Cooper thing. Okay, so characters. Your basic battle line are your cultists, your legionnaires, and your god-specific option. You've got a fortification in the Knockcliff Crown. I don't even know Games Workshop still make that model, if anyone ever bothered with it. And you've got a reasonable selection of toys in your other section. You've got your bikers, you've got Land Raider, you've got a Predator, you've got Terminators, Vindicator, you've got Beastmen, which is nice to see back in the game. You've got your Havocs, if you want the Flyer, you've got your Hellbrute. You've got the Core Lord of Skulls, which are dirty. Raptors, you want something, you've got a unit for it, without being swamped. Looking at you, Space Marine Codex, with your how many hundreds of different bloody units. You want something, it's there. So all in all, I think this is a really good codex. I think that they've done a good job with it. I think there's a nice mix of detachments. It copies the Space Marine one. It's trying to do the Legion specific stuff, or chapter specific stuff, I should say. But you've got to fix that Dark Packs mechanic. Sorry, G-Dub, but you really have. And sorry, CSM players. That's my one real gripe at this codex. That's that ability. I know it's only on 6s, but it's the fact that every single unit can do it in the shooty phase and in the assault phase. It's slightly too good. How would you fix it? Let me know. Anyway, that's my... For someone who wasn't going to do a full rundown of everything in this particular book, I seem to have done it anyway. But thank you for watching. I'm going to wrap this up now. Thanks for watching. Please give me a thumbs up, a like. Please give me a subscribe to the channel, and talk in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you're a CSM player, agree, disagree, and you can disagree. I'm quite happy for it. Be nice. And let's see if you agree with me as well. If I'm missing something on one of those detachments, let me know. In the meantime, I'll see you down in the comments below. Take care, everybody. Thumbs up. Look, don't forget to do that. Take care. Good gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.